Today we've got a special word for you, and I actually just want to start in prayer and anchor there before we do anything else. Sound good? Let's bow our heads, close our eyes, and we'll pray. Jesus, say whatever you want to say today. Amen. Sometimes our prayers can be really simple. Did you know that? I think when I was growing up, I grew up in church, and I heard a lot of people say really big, really long, really fancy prayers. And you know how that made me feel? It made me feel like my prayers weren't good enough, that my words weren't big enough, that like my ideas weren't like powerful enough. The reality is prayer is just talking to God. And sometimes it can be a simple little thing like, God, say whatever you want to say. That's it. Our prayers can be simple. Well, listen, today we're not talking about prayer. We're talking about something quite different. And I want you to imagine with me for a second. Have you ever had a time where somebody did something mean to you? Raise your hand. Almost every hand is in the air. How about a time when somebody lied to you? They didn't tell you the truth. Okay. How about this? Have you ever had somebody who took something that didn't belong to them? Something that was yours, actually. Yeah. Okay. How about this? Have you ever had somebody who's called you names before and it hurt a lot? Yeah. Okay. So over the course of just 4 questions, I think I saw every single every single hand up in the air at some point. Because the thing is, people are going to do mean things to us from time to time. And the question is, how do we respond to that? We can't always control what they do to us, but we can control what we do next. And so today, what we're going to talk about for the next however many minutes is how to plot revenge. All right? What do you think? How to plot revenge against your friend. I'm just kidding. No, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the opposite. How can we forgive people? Because that's actually what Jesus asked us to do. Now, there's a guy in the Bible named Peter who had a question for Jesus. Here's what he said in Matthew 18. It says, "Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, 'Lord, how often should I forgive someone?'" And he's about to give a number, but I want to give you context. At that time in the Jewish tradition, it was believed that you could give people 3 chances. Like you could forgive people 3 times and that was enough. If they did mean stuff to you after that, then it was kind of their fault and you could be mad at them a little bit and you didn't have to forgive them anymore. So Peter was thinking, hey, just 3 times, right? And he actually decided to kind of test Jesus a little bit and go above and beyond. He said, you know what, not 3. He said, Jesus, what about 7 times? Is 7 times enough times to forgive somebody who did something bad or mean to us? You know what Jesus said? He didn't say 7 times. He said 7 times 70. Or actually, I think it's 70 times 7. He said, that's how many times you should forgive somebody. Now, listen, I challenged our first chapel group with our lower elementary to do some multiplication. I'm curious if you guys can figure out the answer to 70 times 7. What's the actual number? Do you think you can do that? All right? I feel like we've got a lot of smart kids in the room, so I think I'm coming back to you, dude. Here we go. 70 times 7. What do you think it is?
490.
Oh my gosh, first try, get a hand. Wow. I think I gave the first group 5 guesses and I had to just spill the beans. But it's really hard. That is a big multiplication question, but I knew at CVCS, with the quality of your education here, that this group would get it. You guys are awesome. But the point is not about multiplication. The point is not about the number 490. You know what Jesus was trying to say? He said, I want unlimited forgiveness. I don't want you to be asking, how many times should I forgive somebody? I want your default response to be forgiveness. Meaning, no matter how many times something happens to us, our heart should be a heart of love and forgiveness, not a heart of anger and revenge and bitterness. Listen, as I was preparing for this, Miss Sampson gave me a topic a couple weeks ago. She said, I want you to teach about forgiveness. And I said, okay, cool. That's awesome. And so I start preparing for this. You know what happens? A funny thing happens when you start teaching about the Bible or talking about the Bible is you have stuff come up in your life about that topic. And so between that time and now, I had something happen in my family. Actually, one of my siblings who's been doing some really bad, really mean things to another person in my family. Not to me, but to somebody else in my family. And it makes me upset. Like, it makes me angry. In fact, like it reached a point just a couple days ago where I came home and I told my wife, I'm like, I don't know how I'm supposed to forgive this person. Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to give them a second chance. Like, all of the feelings inside of me was, I'm going to be angry forever. right? I'm just going to be mad at them forever. And my wife is full of love and wisdom and reminded me, what would Jesus do? and of course, I'm reminded I'm literally teaching on forgiveness this week. What the heck? But this is the thing. God does not want us to stay in a place of anger and bitterness and be mad at everybody around us. He actually wants us to forgive because there's life and there's power in forgiveness. Now, Jesus, after he got this question, he actually told a parable to his people. Now, does anybody know what a parable is? Raise your hand if you think you know the answer to what a parable is. My dude, I see your hand over here. What do you think it is?
It's like someone makes up a story to teach someone a lesson.
Exactly. A parable is just a story. It could be real or fake or whatever. It could be pretend. But the point is, it's a story that's meant to be an example of something, like to help you understand an idea a little bit better. Now, today, instead of reading that parable, I thought, what if we acted it out? What if we had our own mini performance on this here stage where you could actually see an example of what forgiveness actually looks like? And I'll give you a little preface, all right? I had some of our kids be actors at the first chapel, and they had an award-winning performance. So I think you guys have to level it up. I know you're capable of it. Here's what I need. All right, quiet coyote. Shh. Hey, there's one thing you got to learn about Mr. Jeremy is when I come to chapel and I look for volunteers, I'm only going to call on people who are being patient and they got their hand in the air. If I see them jumping up and down in their seat, you think I'm going to pick them? Nope. If they're shouting at me, do you think I'm going to pick them? Nope. So I want you to be patient, all right? If you want to be part of it, raise your hand. I'll come to you. The first thing I need is the star of our performance, the king. I need somebody who can be a king. You know what? I saw you right here and I said, this looks like a king. Come on, you can go actually all the way up to the stage. All right, the next thing I need is a character called Boomer. All right, a character called Boomer. Okay, over here, my dude at the very end. Come on up. You can be Boomer. I need another named Benny. All right, Benny, I think could be a girl. All right, over here, my dear. You want to be Benny? Come on up. I'm just looking for anybody. You can be Benny. All right, so servants. I need 2 servants. All right, I need 2 servants. These could be any people. All right, you want to be a servant? Come on up. You want to be a servant? Come on up. All right, I need guards. I actually think for this it'd be funny if we had 2 like girl guards who are just like really tough. Like I'm not gonna mess with these girls. Right over here. You want to be a guard? All right. Do you want to be a guard? Come on up. All right. So we have our actors. Everybody, let's come on up to the stage. We've got our cast here today. All right. Yep, I think we have everybody. Okay, so let's do a little review before we start. Make sure everybody knows their roles and all that stuff. Our king, right here. Our king, can you raise your hands? You're going to be our king for this performance. Give him a hands. Awesome. And then our next character is Boomer, right? Over here. Give a hand for Boomer. And then Benny over here, my dude, Benny. All right. And then we've got 2 servants, okay? Raise your hand if you're the servants. There you go. I'm sorry, that's maybe not the funnest one, but it's going to be cool. All right, and then lastly, we've got our guards, all right? Give it up for our guards. Now, here's how this is going to work. I'm going to narrate the story, and as I do, I want you guys to act out whatever you hear me saying, okay? You can make it your own, you can get creative if you want, or you could do exactly what I'm saying out loud and just act it out. It is entirely up to you. Sound good? Now, audience, couple things for you to know. It is okay to clap and cheer, all right? These are our friends. We want to like actually help them feel comfortable. So you're allowed at any point to clap or cheer. Now, what I'm going to do is there are 3 parts. I think there's 3 parts to this performance. And at the end of each one, I'm going to say end scene. And when I do, I want you to erupt in clapping, okay? When you hear me say end scene, I want you to clap really loud. Let's practice end scene. All right. Now, at the very end, when we're actually like all the way done with our story, instead, I'm going to say the end. And this time, I want you to do what we call a standing ovation. So you're going to clap, but you're going to stand at the same time. Let's try it. The end. Woo-hoo-hoo. All right, you can have a seat. This is going to be really good. Okay, are we ready? Raise your hand if you guys are ready for our performance. All right. Okay, I was worried about you, bud. Okay, here it is. All right, everyone, imagine a big, important king sitting on his fancy chair. Go ahead, king. Sit tall and proud like you mean business. The king decides it's time to check who still owes him money. So he flips through his papers and he squints his eyes and he looks very, very serious. He calls for one of his servants. Come on, Boomer, who owed him a huge amount of money. Now, Boomer owed him like $1 million. That's a lot. Say, ooh. $1 million is like a lifetime supply of pizza. I don't know if you knew that. So Boomer walks up very slowly. He's looking worried. His shoulders are slumped, his eyes are big, and his knees are shaking because he's so nervous. And the king looks down at him and taps his foot like he's waiting. No, you tap your foot, not his foot. Oh my goodness. I love it. So Boomer falls to his knees. He puts his hands together like he's begging. And he says, please be patient. I'll pay you back someday. He actually said it. That's cool. So the king looks down at Boomer and his face softens. He leans forward. He takes a deep breath and then he smiles. He stands up, waves his hand and says, you know what? I forgive you. You don't owe me anything anymore. I love that they're saying the lines, guys. This is awesome. So Boomer's jaw drops. He jumps up and down. Boomer's jumping up and down. He throws his hands in the air in excitement. He shouts, yes! Yeah, then he bows down to the king. Yeah, and then he runs in a little circle of excitement. Yeah, and then he skips off the stage. Well, you don't have to go all the way off. End scene. Where do you go? Oh, hey, you can stay up. Stay up. This is what my directions are not clear enough. I apologize. That's on me, not you. Okay, scene 2. As Boomer walks out, still smiling from ear to ear because of how much he's been forgiven, he spots someone else down the hall. Boomer spots Benny. All right, so go find Benny right here. Now, Benny owes him a much smaller amount, only about $100. That's like the same amount of if you're paying for a brand new video game that you've been really wanting. So Boomer suddenly stops smiling. Boomer folds his arms, he stomps his foot, and he points at Benny. And Benny freezes. He looks confused. And then he reaches into his pockets. Good job, he's already doing it. He's pretending to search for money, but uh-oh, his pockets are empty. So Benny drops to his knees and makes pleading hands. Pretend like you're begging. And says, please, please, give me more time. But Boomer just crosses his arms even tighter. He shakes his head no, and he scowls. Then with a big dramatic gesture, he points towards the guards. Guards, march over, march, 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 and gently lead Benny away to jail. Benny looks back sadly as he's taken off to the side of the stage. End scene. Scene 3. Now, some of the other servants, this is your time. Some of the other servants saw what just happened and they all gasped together. The servants started whispering and pointing. Can you believe that? The king forgave Boomer's huge debt, but Boomer wouldn't even forgive Benny's tiny little debt. The servants shake their heads and then hurry off to tell the king. They run in slow motion to the king. Very good. Run in slow motion like a movie scene. So they walk up to the throne, and when the king hears the news, his face turns from kind to angry. He stands up quickly, points toward the door, and shouts, bring Boomer back here right now. All right. So Boomer walks back in looking very, very nervous again. His eyes are down, his shoulders are drooping. So the king crosses his arms and looks disappointed. He raises an eyebrow as if to say, really, Boomer? Then he points toward Benny's empty spot and shakes his head. And finally, he waves his hand to the guards, and the guards gently guide Boomer away while the king sighs and sits back down, shaking his head softly. The end. All right. Great job, guys. You can have a seat. Wow. I think there should be awards for our actors, but also for our audience. Give yourself a hand. That was great. Did you guys notice what happened there? I know we were making it really silly, and no, the parable in the Bible is not exactly like that, but it's really close. The story that Jesus gave was very similar, where there was somebody who owed a lot of money, and they were forgiven completely. And then they went back immediately, and somebody owed them a small amount of money, and they wouldn't forgive them. You know what Jesus is talking about here? He's talking about the type of forgiveness that each and every one of us receives. There is a reason why Jesus came into the world, and it wasn't because he just wanted to see how cool Earth is, right? He already knew that. The reason Jesus came to the world is so that he could rescue each and every one of us. Now, by this point, if you've been at CVS for a little bit, you've probably learned about, did I say it wrong? CVCS? What did I say? CVS? You can get your groceries at CVS. No. CVCS. I'm going to get it right this time. Listen, if you've been here for a little while, then you've heard about things like sin. You've heard about things like the gospel. You've heard about all these things where sin is really just disobedience. It's not being able to follow the standard that God gives us and the consequence for sin. Does anybody know what that is? Raise your hand if you think you know the consequence.
Death.
It's death. Say, ooh. I don't know if you know this, but death is bad. Death is not a good thing, all right? And listen, every single one of us in this room has sinned. We've all made mistakes. We've all been disobedient at least once in our life, which means every single one of us, if Jesus didn't come to save us, all of us would have that same consequence. But Jesus came to change all that. He gave up his life when he didn't have to, and he forgave each and every one of us. That is the ultimate debt. That is the ultimate price to be paid. So, how do you think it makes him feel when we see somebody in our life who does something really small to us and we can't even forgive that? It breaks his heart. If Jesus forgave us of the ultimate debt, then we can forgive other people of things too. That's the thing that we learn in this story. Now, I told you guys earlier about a time in my life, literally right now, where everything in my body says, I just want to be mad. I don't want to forgive. I just want to be mad. I want to be angry. Like I want to be bitter towards this person in my family for being mean to somebody else and the hurt that causes all of us. But you know what? That's not what Jesus wants us to do. That's not how he wants us to live. He wants us to forgive the people around us, even when it's really tough. Do you think it was easy for Jesus to be up on the cross and give his life for something that he didn't even do? No, it was really hard. And if Jesus can do it, we can do it. I want to pray as we close. God, I pray that you would make us people of forgiveness, not people of revenge, not people of anger, not people of being mad all the time about everything. We want to be people of love and kindness and forgiveness. Why? Because that's who you are. That's what matters to you. And so if it matters to you, God, help it matter to us as well. We want to be an example of what it looks like to reflect your character to the world around us. And so, God, I pray that you would be with us today and help us make the bold choice to forgive other people. The easy choice is to stay mad, but the hard choice is to forgive other people. But where there's forgiveness, there is life and there is power, and that's where we want to be. And so we love you. We thank you. We pray all these things in your name. And all God's kids said, amen. All right, you are dismissed. Have a great day, guys.
This episode has been a production of the Capistrano Valley Christian Schools Podcast Network. Capistrano Valley Christian Schools is a Christian JK-12 school in San Juan Capistrano, California. Be sure to check out, subscribe to, and leave a review of this show and the other shows on our network on your podcast player of choice. Doing so supports the school community in a multitude of ways. For more information about the CVCS Podcast Network or any of our other shows, check out cvcs.org or email podcasts@cvcs.org. On behalf of the whole network, this is Mr. Jasper saying thank you again for listening and stay tuned for more.